everybody. Welcome to Texas Motor Speedway, home of this weekend's Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400. 267 laps around this mile-and-a-half racetrack. Triple header weekend back in the spring for Texas Motor Speedway, back where it belongs. This racetrack has a long history. Started in the series in 1997 as a brand new facility. State-of-the-art, world-class, the shining gem of Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. The Interstate Batteries 500 that year was won by none other than Mr. Jeff Burton, the mayor. Went 10 years before we had a repeat winner, who was none other than Jeff Burton, the first person to win 2 races at Texas Motor Speedway. Since then, the dates have moved around a little bit. We started moving this back to one date back in 2019, held the All-Star race here for a couple years, wound up moving that to just a single date in the fall. This was part of the playoffs for the last few years, moved back to its traditional spring date where this track started. Pretty excited about that, and I think the fans are going to be pretty excited about it too, as last fall temperatures were reaching 100 degrees sitting in the stands. It's going to be a lot cooler this weekend, a lot more enjoyable to sit in the stands and watch this weekend's race. Time as always to talk about who we think is going to win this weekend's Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400 at Texas Motor Speedway. I want so badly to pick Bubba Wallace. After a 4th place finish last week at Martinsville, showed good speed earlier this year at Las Vegas, just didn't have the finish after that Wiehl issue. Had their best statistical race of his career here in the fall, winning the pole, led 111 laps, ultimately finishing 3rd. But I just don't see the speed out of the Toyotas that leads me to believe Bubba's going to be there. I think he's a contender. He's slowly working his way from that top 25 to top 15, now into that top 10 regularly discussion. Just need to see a little more consistency out of that team before I'd be willing to pick them as my winner. For me, I see more speeds at the mile-and-a-half tracks out of the Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets, and yes, Kyle Larson is probably the most dominant mile-and-a-half racetrack driver there is. Let's talk about Chase Elliott for a minute. I picked him to win Atlanta earlier this year. That didn't quite work out. He got quite a few incidents in that race. However, 3rd place last week at Martinsville, slowly working the way into the discussion on a weekly basis. Could this be the week that Chase Elliott breaks back into the discussion regularly as a contender and possibly a winner at Texas Motor Speedway? What about Tyler Reddick? Ran so well at Las Vegas, 2nd in both stages, ultimately finished 2nd in that race, chasing down Kyle Larson for the win before he ran out of time and ran out of tires. Could the Toyotas have something up their sleeve? Could Tyler Reddick be the one to bring us back to victory lane? Don't forget, he won last fall in Kansas, has had a pretty good track record, has a win here in the number 8 car back when he drove for RCR at Texas Motor Speedway in the next-gen car. Could Tyler Reddick show up this weekend and be a potential threat? Don't forget, this is the 2nd start of 2024 for Jimmie Johnson in the number 84 Camry. He's the all-time race winner here at Texas Motor Speedway with 7 wins. Could he show up, surprise all of us with that Legacy Motor Club Toyota, and put himself into victory lane? Let me go ahead and spoil it for you. No, none of those guys are going to win this weekend. Kyle Larson will bring home the 6 shooters and be firing those off in victory lane here at Texas Motor Speedway at the end of the day. I just don't see anybody that matches the speed and the consistency of the 5 car on mile-and-a-half racetracks. They dominated Las Vegas. They would have won this race last year before he spun under Bubba Wallace. They didn't touch, don't at me. I still think that Kyle Larson dominated the majority of mile-and-a-half racetracks last year. Even though they may not have all the wins in the column, they still showed consistency and speed every week we run these type of racetracks. I picked Kyle Larson to win this weekend. And don't forget to watch me in the number 96 Standard Proof Camaro tonight on the IWM Broadcast Network as the Nascar Cup Series takes on Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be racing, I believe we start at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll put a link in the description. Be sure to check that out. It's going to be a good time. We ran really well last week. Almost had a top 10 in Martinsville before last lap. Kind of got in a little bit of mayhem. The penalty system caught us up. We wound up finishing 20th. We're finally starting to get some momentum on our side. Texas has been a good track to me for years. I've got a few wins here. I think that we could have a good night tonight. Come check it out on the IWM Broadcast Network. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Enjoy the races. We'll be back next week to get ready for Talladega Superspeedway, the biggest, baddest track in NASCAR. One of my personal favorites. Really looking forward to that race. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week.